Greetings, friends. Imagine if I told you the founder of Hyundai, a global giant in the automotive industry, once toiled barefoot in muddy fields, never attended university, and was so poor he couldn't afford a train fare. To pursue his ambitions, he trekked 120 kilometers on foot. This isn't a motivational talk. It's not a made-up tale. It's the truth. Today, you'll discover the journey of a boy who started with nothing and built an empire. A boy with no wealth, no formal education, no influence, but one thing that transformed his life: an unyielding resolve to keep pushing forward. Why should you care about this story? It's not just about business success. It's a lesson in resilience when life knocks you down, in believing in yourself when no one else does, and in standing tall when the world turns its back on you. Plus, this story will boost your English skills. How? Because you're not just hearing English, you're immersed in a gripping narrative. The key to fluency isn't dull grammar rules or tedious word lists. It's engaging with real, emotional stories told in clear, impactful English. So, pay attention, because this tale might not only improve your English, it could inspire a change in your life. Let's dive into the story of the man who started it all. Part 1: The Boy with Nothing. Let's travel back to 1915 to a humble village in North Korea, before the nation was split. A boy named Chung Ju-yong was born into a family of rice farmers. They lived in a simple hut with a thatched roof, surviving on meager meals, sometimes barely enough to eat. As the eldest son, Chung worked the fields daily from a young age. No shoes, no toys, no time for dreams. At 7, he hauled water, cut fodder for livestock, and planted rice. His father, a stern man, had one rule: work hard, forget dreams. A farmer's son was destined to remain a farmer. But Chung was different. Even as a child, he yearned for more. Gazing at the mountains, he wondered, is this all life has for me? At around 14, he dreamed of studying, learning math, and becoming a teacher. One day, he slipped away from home and walked miles to join a school. But his father discovered his plan and, furious, brought him back to the farm. "Stop dreaming," he scolded. "Dreams don't fill empty stomachs." It was the first time life told him to stay small, but something in Chung resisted. Years later, he tried again. With little money and a bold vision, he set out for Seoul. Unable to afford a train ticket, he ran, 120 kilometers on foot, with no food, no phone, just a belief that life held more than rice fields. In Seoul, he landed a job at a construction site, working with bricks and cement from dawn to dusk. His hands bled, his body ached, but every night he told himself, one day, I'll build more than houses. I'll create something massive. After months of grueling work, he saved enough to start a small rice shop with a partner. It was his first step into business. But then, his partner betrayed him, stealing all the money and vanishing. Chung lost everything. Most would have returned to the village, defeated. Not Chung. He brushed away his tears and said, "They can take my money, but not my drive, not my dream." He started over from scratch. Over the next few years, he took any job available, hauling bricks, delivering salt, repairing bikes, polishing shoes. He observed, listened, and learned, not from textbooks, but from life. Gradually, he grasped how business worked, how people thought, and how to earn respect, not just money. By the 1940s, Chung launched a small construction company. He built roads and fixed bridges, catching the attention of the government. Then, World War II ended, leaving Korea shattered and divided. Where others saw despair, Chung saw potential for new roads and new beginnings. Part 2, Rising from Ruins, The Birth of Hyundai. We left off with Chung starting a small construction business, but let's not rush ahead. Korea in the 1940s was a land without hope. Freshly liberated from decades of Japanese rule, it was poor, broken, no proper roads, no clean water, no major industries, no structure. Korea was like a heart beating in a body without bones. But where others saw emptiness, Chung saw opportunity. He believed that if the nation was broken, its people must rebuild it. In 1946, at around 31 years old, he founded his company, naming it Hyundai, meaning modern, in Korean. Picture that, a barefoot farmer's son with no education, naming his company a modern. He didn't just want to build roads, he wanted to shape the future. At first, Hyundai was a modest construction firm, handling small projects like roads, bridges, and building repairs. But Chung's mindset set him apart. While others said, "We're too small for big projects," Chung countered, "We're small because we avoid big projects." He began bidding for larger contracts, taking risks, hiring smarter minds, and overseeing every detail. He didn't hide in an office. He visited sites, spoke with workers, inspected every brick and stone. He believed that anything built must be strong enough to carry the future. Then came the Korean War in 1950, North against South, a devastating conflict. Cities burned, lives were lost, and many businesses collapsed. But Chung didn't flee or close Hyundai. He saw the destruction and thought, "This country will need roads and buildings again, and I'll be the one to build them." He collaborated with the South Korean government to rebuild critical infrastructure. His workers weren't just laborers, they were rebuilding their homeland. This strengthened Hyundai's reputation. People trusted the name because, while others hesitated, Hyundai pressed forward. A defining moment came in the 1960s when the government challenged him to build a bridge over the Han River. Hyundai had never built a bridge before. Rivals mocked him, saying, "He's no engineer, just a construction worker." But Chung responded, "If we say we can't, we'll never learn." He took the project, assembled a team, hired engineers, studied blueprints, and visited bridges worldwide. He stood by the river daily, planning and refining. In just 4 months, the Han River Bridge was complete. Those who mocked him fell silent. A farmer's son had built one of Korea's most vital bridges, a symbol of South Korea's rise, with Hyundai leading the way. After this, Hyundai's reputation soared. The government entrusted him with highways, dams, ports, and shipyards. But Chung wasn't content. He remembered his barefoot days and wanted more than wealth, he wanted transformation. He declared, "We can't just imitate the world. We must create." So, he made a bold move, Hyundai would build ships. Critics laughed again, South Korea had no shipbuilding expertise or technology. But Chung said, "We'll learn. We'll start. We'll try." He partnered with British shipbuilders, studied their methods, and bought land in Ulsan, a small fishing village, vowing to turn it into Korea's industrial hub. By 1974, Hyundai launched its first major ship, becoming a global leader in shipbuilding. From rice fields to factories, Chung wasn't just building a company, he was crafting a dream factory. Part 3, The Man Who Built a Car. By the late 1970s, Chung had built roads, bridges, ports, and ships. But one challenge remained: cars. South Korea relied on imported vehicles from Japan and the West. Chung asked, "Why can't we make our own cars?" No one had an answer, so he took it upon himself. Chung, who once ran 120 kilometers barefoot, had built Korea's highways, shipyards, and ports. Yet he wasn't satisfied. He recalled how people doubted Koreans could ever build cars, believing it was a task for wealthy nations with advanced technology. But Chung trusted his people. "We've built roads," he said. "Now we'll build the wheels to travel them." His team was stunned. Cars? They lacked knowledge, engineers, and tools. But Chung replied, "We'll learn. We'll create the tools. We'll train the engineers." That's what Hyundai means, modern. This wasn't just a business move, it was a mission for Korea. In the early 1970s, Chung traveled to Britain and met George Turnbull, a seasoned engineer from British Leyland. He didn't plead or flatter, he shared his vision: "I don't want to copy foreign cars. I want to build something new, and I need your expertise." Impressed, Turnbull joined, bringing 5 top British engineers skilled in engines, design, and safety. They arrived in a Korea with dirt roads and doubted they could build cars there. But Chung gave them belief, saying, "You're not just building cars, you're making history." They worked in a single warehouse, without fancy labs or machines, led by a man who refused to quit. After years of setbacks, faulty engines, broken parts, heavy designs, and scarce materials, Chung never wavered. When failures arose, he asked, "What did we learn?" He saw failure as the path to success. In 1975, the Hyundai Pony was born, Korea's first national car. It was simple, affordable, and proudly Korean, not flashy but a symbol of possibility. At its unveiling in Seoul, the crowd cheered, "We did it. We're not small anymore." Selling cars abroad was tougher. Global giants like Toyota and Ford scoffed, calling Korean cars toys. But Chung, used to skepticism, relied on courage and constant improvement. Hyundai started in smaller markets like Ecuador and Chile, then entered Canada and, in 1986, the US with the Hyundai Excel. In its first year, Hyundai sold over 168,000 cars in the US, a record. Rivals grew nervous, but problems soon emerged. Engines failed, parts broke, and customers complained. American media branded Hyundai as low quality, and sales plummeted. While his team urged retreat, Chung stood firm. "If we don't improve, we don't deserve success." He overhauled everything: better materials, stricter quality checks, tougher testing. "Let's not compete on price," he said. "Let's compete on pride." By the late 1990s, Hyundai had transformed. The world began to see it as reliable and innovative, earning awards for quality, design, and safety. Hyundai wasn't just a good car for the price, it was a great car, period. Part 4, A Legacy Beyond Cars. As Hyundai's cars gained global respect, something shifted in South Korea. Hyundai became more than a company, it became hope. Whenever the nation faced a challenge, Hyundai stepped up. Whenever a goal seemed impossible, Chung said, "We'll do it." By the 1990s, South Korea had risen from poverty to prosperity, and Hyundai's name was on much of that progress. Beyond cars, they built dams, nuclear plants, trains, steel mills, ports, and even Korea's first satellite launch site. This wasn't random. Chung's mission was clear: copying the world keeps you second, building the future makes you first. Hyundai became a symbol of Korean pride. Buying a Hyundai car meant believing in Korea's potential. The company employed hundreds of thousands, supporting families and creating jobs in remote areas. Chung saw business as more than profit, it was about people. Every factory we build feeds thousands of homes, he said. Even in his 70s, Chung never slowed down. Wearing his gray suit and white helmet, he visited factories, shipyards, and ports, talking to workers and taking notes. He remained the barefoot boy who once carried bricks, never acting superior. In his 80s, he made a daring move. In 1998, he traveled to North Korea, a country still divided from the South. While others avoided it, Chung believed in unity. He crossed the border with 500 cows, a gesture of peace, repaying livestock taken during the war. Images of trucks carrying cows across the DMZ, led by an elderly man, captivated the world. It was a powerful, human act that opened a small door to peace. Chung Ju-yong, the boy who had nothing, didn't just build Hyundai, he built a legacy of courage, resilience, and hope. In the final years of his life, Chung started stepping back from day-to-day operations. But he never stopped thinking. His diary, written in simple Korean, showed pages filled with thoughts, ideas, plans. He still visited his offices, still asked about construction projects, still studied world markets. But his body was weakening. Why? Because he believed in human potential. And today, his story is told in classrooms, not as a story of business, but as a story of vision, grit, sacrifice, and humanity. Here are the final messages people took from his life. 1. You do not need permission to dream. Chung didn't wait for the world to allow him to succeed. He chased trains, knocked on doors, failed again and again, and kept walking. His life says, don't wait, begin. 2. Failures are not the end, they are training. He lost everything more than once, got betrayed, mocked, rejected, but every failure became a new tool. His lesson, if you are afraid of failure, you are afraid of growth. 3. Help others rise as you rise. He didn't just make money. He created jobs, gave people a reason to stay in their hometowns, supported education, donated to schools, and helped rebuild communities. His message, real success is not about how high you go, it's about how many people you lift with you. The most powerful tool is not money, it's character. When people trusted Chung, they didn't do it because he was rich. They did it because he was honest. He kept his promises. He paid his workers. He stood in front of his mistakes. Even when Hyundai failed in America, he didn't hide. He said, let us improve. Let us do better. And they did. Today, many people drive Hyundai cars without knowing the story. They press the accelerator, play music, and look out the window, unaware that this simple car is a symbol of one man's unstoppable will. But some of us remember. We remember a boy born in a poor village in North Korea, who was told not to dream, who couldn't afford a train ticket, who ran barefoot across mountains chasing a future no one else could see. We remember how he failed, got back up, and failed again. How he built roads, ships, cars, and dreams. How he didn't just change a country, he changed what people believed was possible. So, what is the real legacy of Chung Ju-yong? It is not just Hyundai. It is not just factories or bridges or awards. His legacy is this truth: even if you are born with nothing, if you keep moving, if you keep building, one day the world will drive on your roads, sail in your ships, and believe in your story. That is the story of the boy who created Hyundai. And it is a story that must never be forgotten. Let this be more than a video. Let this be a message. If you have a dream, fight for it. If you have a setback, rise again. And if the world tells you you can't, remember this name, Chung Ju-yong, and reply to the world with his famous words, have you tried? And now, before we close this story, let's look at what Hyundai has become today. The company that started with nothing, not even enough money for a train ticket, is now one of the biggest companies in the world. Today, Hyundai is worth over $50 billion. Its cars run in more than 200 countries. Its factories give jobs to over 250,000 people around the globe. And Hyundai has built some of the most expensive and advanced ships in the world, including massive container ships, high-tech oil tankers, military vessels, and their luxury car brand Genesis. It now competes with Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Lexus, and wins international awards. All of this started from a boy with no shoes. This is not just the story of a man. This is the story of what is possible. So, if life is hard right now, if you feel poor, alone, or small, if people say you're not smart enough, not rich enough, not strong enough, then remember this story and remember this name, Chung Ju-yong, because if he can do it, why not you?